guess I feel like a reunion that
I know.
everybody's like, always trying to come up. That's how I feel like, where's your yearbook, Catherine? I go around, have everybody sign it. And so anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Kareen Busta. I work with Cox Communications. I'm your chair of your Government Affairs Council. I'd also like to introduce Jim Benedetti. He is the chair of the Government Affairs Committee for the Chamber. So I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us online. I don't know if you all online have a fabulous flag in front of you, but we do here. So I'd like to have everybody stand up and say Pledge of Allegiance over here to your left. Put your hands over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please do have a seat. So I think like Catherine is definitely the most popular person in the room. I feel like if I read her bio, it would probably do a lot of disservice because it should have been like a trivia fun facts about Catherine and all the wonderful work that she's done in the city of Encinitas and also currently what she's doing in Sacramento. And I have to say, as a fan, seeing her working with the governor on gun safety laws really kind of got me choked up over the past couple of days. So congratulations on your work with that. I really do appreciate that. Being a mother of kids, I beyond appreciate it. So without further ado, I would like for Catherine to go ahead because we want to maximize her time here and anything that she wants to share with us. So everybody, please welcome Senator Catherine Blakespear.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here today. And it is like a reunion, seeing everybody and coming into City Hall and seeing a new photo on the wall of the City Council. It's really great to be here. So I've been in office now as your state senator for a year. So I was just elected, in November of 2023 or 2022, and have been going up to Sacramento for 9 months every week. Monday through Thursday, I'm in Sacramento. I fly home on Thursday and live at home with my family and then do it again until the session ended in September. And now I've been home for this last 3 months of the year. So this is my opportunity to get to come to groups like this and give you a little bit of an update because when it gets to be January, I'll start to do that schedule again and be gone on a day like this. So it was really interesting in Sacramento. It's fascinating work up there. Everybody is really engaged and there's so much really high level thinking and talking and problem solving going on all the time. I really love it. I love the work. And I love having come from local government, spent 6 years as mayor, 2 years on city council here. All of that is so valuable. So I'm routinely referring to what we did or happened in Encinitas when I'm talking or making decisions about things. It's just incredibly relevant. So I'm grateful for all of the partnerships and things I was able to be involved in, including Sandag being the chair of the transportation agency in Sacramento and then also in the district. The things that the priorities that I focused on are transportation, housing, and gun violence prevention. And then in general, environmental commitments. But I had fewer bills in that space in my first year. So I'll just talk about those three topics: transportation, housing, and gun violence prevention. So the first one, transportation, I'm on the transportation committee and I have a subcommittee of that, which I'm chairing. Hello, welcome. And it is about the rail corridor. So it's called the Low Sand Corridor Resiliency Committee. And it's 351 miles that goes all the way from San Diego to San Luis Obispo. There are these sections that are very vulnerable to sea level rise, like Del Mar, and then also like San Clemente and some places in Santa Barbara. And there's also just a lot of capacity for the rail corridor to work better. So to have more frequent service that's more reliable, to have more integration between counties, like MetroLink only goes as far right now as Oceanside. And there are discussions about it going all the way to like a Padres game or to Comic-Con and bringing people in San Diego up to an Angels game, various ways that there could just be much better integration. But what happens, of course, is that ridership starts to fall when you have sections where people have to get off of the train and get on a bus. So there was a bus bridge for close to 8 months last year around the San Clemente problem. And the bus, no one wants to ride a train trip from Santa Barbara to San Diego and then get onto a bus for an hour and take a bus from Irvine all the way to Oceanside. So, you know, that resulted in this decreasing ridership. And unfortunately, the state supports this rail corridor, particularly the Amtrak part. And the state has been saying that there need to be efficiencies, which basically means more cuts. And what you've seen even so far is like in Solana Beach, the ticket counters are closed, and they're closed all along because of the cost of running these bus bridges. So the question of how can the state better support this type of transit so that we have increasing numbers of passenger trips and not decreasing numbers of passenger trips. And it's like an onion where it's just tremendously complicated with 7 different owners of the rail corridor, 9 different operators. They all have their own fiefdoms and also ways of operating that are historic. And so trying to figure all that out is what I've been spending quite a bit of time at and devoting a lot of energy to. I feel like there's a lot of potential here because there's nobody else focusing on this like I am. And our dialogue at the state level has mostly been around high-speed rail, which is really important. It just got $6 billion from the federal government, but this is an existing corridor that has the potential to reduce congestion on the freeway, reduce emissions, provide transit that's more affordable for people than having a car. And so all the different high-level goals around climate and equity, this corridor could really help meet those, but it needs to be elevated. So that's been a main focus of mine, and I'm happy that we're able to I see progress. I feel like I'm starting to see what could happen and what to advocate for. A lot of times, and this was my experience in local government too, is that you have to define the question first. And a lot of times it's always the shifting landscape. And so it's like, what are we answering here? Like, what is the question? And I think that's true of many problems where you can admire the problem in a very big picture way, but then what is that path? What does that look like? So this area I'm excited about. I'll have done in this 3-month period back in the district, I'll have done 5 site visits. So taking the train to Burbank, to Santa Barbara, to LA, where they have these LA run-through tracks. That is another capital project that needs to happen, just to talk to all the local agencies, because there's really nothing like ground truth. I mean, I know you all know that too from all of your work, but you have to go there and see it and understand it in order to be able to make progress on something. So our next hearing is this coming Monday. It's December 11th, and it's in San Clemente City Hall. And after that, we will take the train in San Clemente and see what it looks like. It's public, you know, you're all welcome to come. It'll also we'll be streaming it on my website. And I encourage you to be engaged in this because I think it's a top issue that is bipartisan, could improve people's lives, is really, you know, worth the focus. So that's transportation. Housing and homelessness is another issue. Homelessness is a top issue in the state. When you poll people, more than 70% say it's the top issue in the state. It is getting worse. So we are spending over $1 billion a year on homelessness. There are more people falling into homelessness than are homeless getting a house every single month. So every single month it is getting worse in this county, in Orange County, which I also represent, and also in the state. So this is a tremendously hard topic to solve. And I have spent a lot of energy and time on it. We hosted an Ending Homelessness Summit with a panel of experts. Hello, welcome. That was really good here in the district. It was in Carlsbad. And we had a lot of good thought leaders from Sacramento and locally. You know, the way that we manage homelessness really is that the quickest way to solve homelessness is that somebody like the federal government or the state would build housing and say people who are homeless could live inside in this housing. But we don't operate like that because that's just not the way our system works. We have money, you know, the legislature gives money. The legislature does money and policy, like at the top level, what do we do? So we give money to counties or sometimes directly to nonprofits or cities. And then they come up with solutions that solve for particular parts. Like, is it mental illness and drug addiction type of homelessness? Is it LGBTQ? Is it veteran? Is it formerly foster youth or incarcerated? You know, these different subgroups. And then of course, some people are homeless just because of circumstances and basically poverty. So you have all this complexity of the different types of ways into homelessness, and then a lot of bureaucracy and hurdles to getting out of homelessness. So on this topic, I'll say, I feel less hopeful than I'd hoped to feel. I guess getting to the state level, I hoped I would see something on the horizon that to me seemed like it was systemic, transformative systems change, where it's like, if we could just do that, if we could scale this, we could handle this. But we don't have, there's definitely not the appetite from the governor and also even from my colleagues to make housing an entitlement like schools. Like we just have a lot of money in the state budget that just goes to schools, and we really don't ever expect it to make it money or for the problem to resolve itself. You know, like schools are just something we fund. And I don't see housing is just not in that category. And so let me finish all my comments and then we can go to questions and comments. So I'm continuing to work on homelessness and housing. But I will say that it's a bit bleaker of a horizon, at least from my assessment, because we're not really doing anything differently. And the macroeconomic forces around minimum wage and housing costs and just will result in more people losing their homes. So that's really not great. Another major issue just around housing, which I'll bring up and is probably maybe is less relevant for you here in Encinitas, but it's fire insurance. Getting insurance, and some people have second homes and things in places that are that this might be implicated, but fire insurance is a major state problem right now because insurance companies are leaving areas of high fire danger or they're not renewing policies. And we have a large number of people on the FAIR plan, which is the state, it's actually not a state plan, but it's the backstop plan. If you can't get insurance somewhere else, you can get it on the FAIR plan. And the insurance commissioner wants to what he calls depopulate the FAIR plan, which really needs to happen because if there was a big disaster, it would be insolvent very quickly. And so it's how the picture for fire insurance, to me, what it looks like is that there's a focus on providing more accessibility into policies so that people could actually get insurance, and then affordability will come second. So it's not likely that we'll have more options for insurance that will be cheaper. I think what's likely is that insurance costs will be going up, but hopefully people will be able to actually get it because there are, and I did a tour of Rancho Mission Viejo, which is a major landowner in Orange County, and they are building multifamily housing projects that they are unable to get an insurance for. And so they're going into the international market. They're going to Chubb and these others to try to get the insurance that they need. But anyway, it drives the type of housing that's built, because if you can't insure a large multifamily building, then they'll go, they move to the types that they can get insurance for. And that maybe is not what we really need, when we're thinking about what kinds of housing we need. So anyway, I bring that up because it's an important topic, and it's also, I think it's going to get more and more urgent because more and more people will be affected by it with their own policies. On the gun violence topic, I want to touch on that. I would say that's an area where I feel like I had a lot of really good success in my first year legislatively. I was able to carry a bill, which really was basically a pro-law enforcement bill that basically requires guns to be micro-stamped. So that means we have a large number of gun crimes that are unsolved. So more than 50% of gun crimes are unsolved. And the micro-stamping says that the bullet is connected to the gun through basically a fingerprint, so that law enforcement can see where did that gun come from. Because then one of the needs for that is that there are a high percentage of guns that are used in criminality that come from the same gun stores. So if you can trace back in this crime, this gun, and it was sold from this store, it'll be easier for law enforcement to crack down on these. How are so many guns getting out to people who shouldn't be owning them? We have a lot of responsible gun stores, but then, there are a few, of course, that aren't. So that was a really important bill that was supported by the Attorney General and the governor and all the gun safety groups. I also carried a bill where somebody walked into my office with an idea in Encinitas and said, I think there should be warning signs like suicide and a suicide number in every gun store. So when someone's buying a gun, that they would see that the statement that says you're actually less safe with a gun in the home, not more safe, you're less safe. And that this is the case particularly for the two largest types of gun violence, which are suicide and domestic violence. Those, you know, those two types, and to have a number so that people could call that. So that was passed and signed by the governor. That was really great. I did a lot of different things at the local level related to gun safety that were possible at the mayor level. And I'll just mention also, because Corinne mentioned it at the beginning too with kids, that my daughter is in public high school at LCC, and she, you know, I was on the floor of the Senate, and she's texting me and her dad, my husband Jeremy, about some, you know, they're in lockdown, and the teacher's saying, stay away from the windows. And we, you know, it's this threat. And then there's the helicopters and there's the sirens, and they're going around looking for somebody. And, you know, they're not telling them exactly what's happening, of course. And it turned out that it wasn't anybody who was actually an active shooter on the campus. But the reality of the terror that we face, even when it is nothing, in our schools and also in our public places, because of the prevalence of guns and just the epidemic of gun violence. We have an obsession with guns in this country, and the result of that is that we have a lot of gun violence. And things are going not the right way when it comes to our federal, basically the Supreme Court and decisions around guns. But in California, you're actually safer statistically. This is not an opinion, it's a fact, that you are safer because of our gun laws. The number of laws that we've passed over many, many years result in people in California being less likely to be killed by a gun in this state than in other states that have different, more liberal laws around guns. So I was a co-author on several other important ones. There are one that funds, it taxes gun manufacturers to fund gun violence prevention programs. And this provides ongoing money that was really desperately needed for really good programs in our communities. So that was a really important one. And then, yeah, there was several others, but anyway, on that topic, I guess that's what I'll say on that topic. And then I was really excited to be able to get money in the state budget to advocate for projects in these communities that improve these communities that I come from. So one of them is $3 million, a little more than $3 million, 3.1, for the road project outside San Diego Academy. So as some of you probably know, there was a poor boy named Brody who was killed on a bicycle, riding his e-bike to school. He was riding back to school at about 5 p.m. And just the reality of our roads being not safe enough for people to ride their bicycle and to walk, especially around schools. You know, schools have so much congestion. There's so much opportunity for kids between age 10 and 16 to ride their bikes to school. And we want to make that as safe as possible. So this Santa Fe Road project, I was involved in it as a mayor, but we couldn't find enough money to do the project at the level that it needed to do, which is to have protected bike lanes, to have a pull-out area for the buses, to not have so much, it's just so much congestion in that area around that school. So I was really excited to be able to advocate for $3 million for this bike project outside San Diego Academy. And I'll also just say that there are many bike projects that we did when I was the mayor and on the council, and they're all amazing. Like, I just am so thrilled by the Coastal Rail Trail, by Highway 101 improvements, the separated bike lanes, and now this new project, you know, there's the walking path, then there's the bike lane, then there's the parking, and then there's the driving. So that the bike lane is not always the parking assist lane where like people are pulling in and out of the bike lane. And so, you know, these projects, they take many years, but every single one, once it's built, I think it's better. And so some of these things like the Santa Fe project, in some ways, I can't fully conceptualize it. Like, I see it on the page and I stand out there and they tell me, but I can't fully see it. But every time it gets built, it's like, wow, this is amazing. Because our traffic engineers know what they're doing and they planned it to meet certain goals. And so being able to get the money to do the project that's been in the hopper for a while was something I was really proud of. I was also able to get $5 million for a project that Encinitas is participating in for homeless people in Vista. So in a way, this is the idea of having more regional collaboration around homelessness is really important, because we do so much of our housing planning just as a city, because that's the way state law requires. It's like, what is the city doing? What is that city doing? But with homelessness, there actually isn't any current obligation for cities to do anything. So a lot of times, really, it's our cities doing something or not based on whether they want to. And they want to, a lot of times, if their constituency is saying, hey, this is a big problem, we want you to do something about it, like in San Diego, where you see a lot of focus on it, and it is a huge problem, because you have these tent cities in downtown, and nobody wants that, right? So so being able to provide $5 million for this project in Vista, which the city of Encinitas basically is buying in through several beds, and I forget how many, it's like 12 or something like that. That they'll be able, if somebody is here in Encinitas and law enforcement say, you cannot camp here, but we do have this place available and we can take you out there and we can help in there. You'll have a shower and a place to stay in a bed, and we'll have social workers who will help you figure out your next move. And that, I think that that's really good and exciting. So I was able to get two other projects, which I'll also just mention, even though they're less Encinitas specific. One of them was to help seniors get to medical appointments in Orange County. So that's a service that's happening in Orange County. And that's a particular issue. And I will just mention it because also personally, I help my dad who has dementia get to his appointments and manage his life. And the transportation to appointments is such a big problem, because as someone who works, you just can't take time off to go to a million appointments. And so somebody has to, when I was dealing with this, you know, he was left on the curb at the wrong place. You know, and he's like standing around, looking around, and I'm standing at the other place, meeting him where he's supposed to be and calling the service. I said, oh yeah, sorry. You know, just a lack of professionalism around that, or waiting an hour to be picked up from the doctor's appointment. You know, that's just also unacceptable. I had a number of problems with the different services when I was dealing with this. So when this came about as an opportunity to fund something that was really valuable in Orange County, they were absolutely completely thrilled about it, because they had the ability to staff it. They just didn't have the vans. So I was able to get $500,000 for these vans, which will be so important for people to get to their medical appointments. And then the fourth thing I was able to get in the budget was the Coast to Crest Trail is this unbelievably amazing planned thing, which goes from Julian to Del Mar, 70 miles, totally off-road when it's built. And there are sections of it that still need to be built. So I was able to get money for the Osuna River Bridge, which is, it's basically right around the Fairbanks, Loma Santa Fe, Rancho Santa Fe area. And it needs, you know, it's a bridge that goes over the river that will connect parts of this trail. And the trail, they've been working on it for a long time, and there are different segments in different cities, and it takes a lot to get to the end. So I was happy to be able to participate in contributing to that project too. So that's the summary of the situation. I welcome your questions.
Yes, so everybody, thank you so much. I know we have a lot of people. And so basically what I'd like to do is, I mean, I want everybody to, you know, make sure you're answering your questions or providing comments, because that was a massive update for just something that's going on. And so, you know, and then if it's something that leads on to a longer conversation, please always know that we always have Francine here. Catherine is always amazing as far as like getting back. So we can always like have like these sidebar conversations to, you know, kind of have a greater conversation. So I just want to like kick everything off. I have a comment and a question for you. The comment is for those safety signs and like gun stores and whatnot. Is there an opportunity to have like a QR code printed that leads directly to a suicide hotline instead of just a number, just so they can click, or if they're like clicking for somebody, just that's just a comment.
That's a
Yeah.
good idea, yeah.
And then also I saw in the news last night that you're, you know, definitely involved with the double tax on ammunition and guns. Can you please like explain a little bit more about that? I think that was like a very interesting thing. And I mean, there was like a huge, you know, amount of support with that. So I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, so this was the tax that's on gun manufacturers that will fund violence prevention programs. This was a top priority for all the gun safety groups. And one of the reasons for that is the idea that people can, when they're involved in violence in some way, how do you help them recover from that, and then also help the community to not fall into further violence? Like, and this is related to gangs and also just having different things for people to be doing after school and all the different things. So this funding stream was a top priority for all the gun safety groups, and it was difficult to get across the finish line, and then they've been working on it for several years. So there was basically a push of all the gun safety legislators like me to make that happen last year, and it did. And the governor signed it, and it's modeled on, there apparently is a tax on firearms that was supported by the NRA to fund wildlife preservation habitat, so that people, you know, who are hunting can have places to hunt. So there's already a tax that this was modeled on, and the amount of it was similar as well. So the idea was, this is something that's supported in this other context for wildlife habitat preservation, and maybe we could use it over here for gun violence prevention activities and things too.
Wonderful, thank you
Yeah.
very much. I'd like to open it up to the rest of the group for any questions.
Did Marlon have one first?
Yeah, I
Yes.
did. Talking to homelessness, you know, from your firsthand experience, you know that most cities are not equipped to deal with the levels of homelessness that they are dealing with. So it's kind of disappointing to hear that there's not much, I don't want to say appetite to solve it up in Sacramento, but you know, since we are spending $1 billion a year and we are seeing annual increases in levels of homelessness, has there been any studies to figure out what are some of the root causes of homelessness? And then from your perspective, what are some of the sticking points that's not driving more action?
Yeah, well, I'll say, I think it's possible that there are some good things. So just some bright spots that I didn't mention. So I think Care Court has the potential to really be important. So the definition of gravely disabled was expanded. So what that will mean is that when you see people who are literally dying and in front of you because they are disabled and they're on the streets and they can't manage their own hygiene and they're, you know, drug addicts, and you watch people, especially in big cities. It's less in Encinitas, obviously, but you see this in Sacramento too. And it breaks your heart, and it really like tears at the soul, I think, to see other humans in that suffering state and say, what are we doing about this? Like, why are we not dealing with this really humanitarian crisis right here? So Care Court is designed to get people, but it's starting particularly with people who have schizophrenia, but to say, you know, we closed all these mental hospitals 30 years ago. And so there really is not a place for people who are mentally ill to be. And then we also have this other crisis of just poverty, you know, just high housing costs. I mean, homelessness is substantially lower in places where housing costs are substantially lower. So did I say that right? Yes. So West Virginia has a lot fewer homeless people, even though you would think that, you know, in a way, I heard somebody phrase it this way at my homelessness summit, which is that homelessness is a symptom of prosperity. It's not actually the symptom of, it's like we have so many jobs where all of our housing stock is being eaten up by people who are making over $100,000, and there's nothing left for people who are making a lower amount, and we're not building enough to keep up with population increases. Even with population going down, we're still in such a deficit. So I think it's multifactorial. The counties have a huge role in this. Most of the money goes to the counties. San Diego is considered to be really forward thinking in terms of all the counties. There are like 58, I think, counties in the state. San Diego is one of the top in terms of its activity and its energy and its collaboration with its other partners. So I think, you know, we'll see what ends up happening in this county, but yeah, so there are some bright spots, and it's not that I think there's an identification of it as a problem, but it's really the wearing down, I think, of all these things that box us into how we've always done it, and also a recognition that we don't want to spend a lot more money on it. So we're already spending a lot, and we don't want to spend a lot more, and what can we do differently? There's a lot of talk about accountability, but what does that really mean exactly? You know, so anyway, I just think it's a multi-year complex problem.
Some of your points were very much related to a New York Times article that talked about how Houston was able to resolve some of those issues. You talked about West Virginia, they talked about that as well in the article. And I wondered if San Diego and obviously the other cities around are being supported by the state in functional ways to I don't want to say deregulate, but help with the reduction of regulation to build more affordable housing.
Yeah, there's still a kind of clash of philosophies around, should the private market be incentivized to produce a lot of housing that's market rate? And that over time, housing will fall into affordability, or will just, because over time, supply and demand does actually work. So like if we have enough supply, prices will come down. And then the other philosophy is we need to actually build more deed restricted affordable housing, which is like basically subsidized. And it's subsidized through a series of different ways, but is this subsidized government housing, or is this a supply side market rate approach? And there's continues to be this back and forth about that. Like cities don't have any inclusionary requirements at the state level. Like so a city doesn't have to say any percentage is affordable. They can have it just be all just market rate housing. But then cities like Encinitas have really leaned more heavily into, we want to have as much deed restricted affordable as possible because we're a high housing cost community. And so the developers don't like that as much, and they say, well, then that means that we won't build. So anyway, I think there's a lot of discussion about it, but there's also just this ongoing competing conflict of philosophies.
Thanks.
Does anybody have it? Oh, yes, please.
Hi, thank you for your presentation.
Hi.
Hi, can you talk about your proposed legislation, SB 7, and how that will benefit your constituents versus harm the communities that we live in?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So SB 7 is the bill related to homelessness that I introduced within hours of being sworn in. And what it does is it would, in its current form, which did not make it through committee last year, it would require every city to provide homeless serving housing according to its point in time count number. So the genesis of this idea is my recognition that all cities do not have a requirement to do anything when it comes to homelessness. So what you see statewide is that big cities like San Diego, San Francisco, LA, they're doing a lot on homelessness, and they put a lot of resource into it and a lot of attention. And then there are 400 other cities in the state, who are really not doing a lot. And I think you do see this, like you look at even the cities in North County here. So I think Carlsbad has done actually quite a lot, but you see, I don't think Oceanside and historically Vista, which have high homeless populations, Encinitas, Solana Beach, really have done very much. Like we've done a little, but we haven't really done very much. And so what my observation of what government does is it does what it's required to do. So if you just make it discretionary, then these are things that, it's easier to say this is the county's problem. And meanwhile, like in Oceanside, the riverbed is so filled with people living in it that are hundreds of people that the sheriff won't even go down there. They send their code enforcement. And it's like, really? I mean, and they have, an unofficial mayor, and they have electricity they've run, and they have like all of these, the sanitation is awful, right? It's running into the river. And so what we're having is these creation of shanty towns like this, it just alarms me to no end. It's like, is that really what we are here as a state? And so saying, okay, let's distribute the responsibility for homeless serving housing. How? And the only number we have is the point in time count. So it's admittedly an undercount, but that's a way to get at something that's an obligation. And the way that I wrote the bill is that the cities have the freedom to decide what type of homeless serving housing they do. Is it a shelter? Is it long-term supported? Is it veterans? Is it the different subgroups I talked about earlier? So to leave that up to cities to figure out, but to have every city have to do something. To your question, Elena, I actually don't think this bill will make it because cities can't do that without money. So they would need to have an allocation of money, and this is not the way homelessness is managed. So this is a sort of outside the box idea, and I just don't see it. It stalled at the appropriations committee, which is the money. And so I think that I'm going to modify the bill to be even something that's maybe just like a reporting requirement of like, what is every city doing? So that we even know what is a city doing exactly when it comes to providing homeless serving housing. And if we see actually most cities are doing nothing, then that might create more of an appetite to say there's an obligation for cities to do more. And part of this is saying, like, if this is a system, this is a 40 million person problem. This is a state problem, which every city is different though, and what it looks like. what are the solutions? And maybe they are different in Bakersfield from Encinitas, right? So leaving it up to the local government to say, what do you think is best for your community? But saying you do have to do something. And I know that this is not going to be popular with the League of Cities, like the who represent cities, because cities don't want more obligations in general. But I do think that once it is an obligation, then they get going on it.
Thank you. So I think, Joe, you had your hand up?
Yeah, it was a question about tobacco waste, and I certainly know we have local expert Mark in the room, but apparently there's significant amounts of waste going into the storm drains. We all see the tobacco or the butts on when we do beach cleanups and stuff. But there was a question about what more could be done. And a related question, what funding might exist out there. And so the recommendations for additional cleanups, more education. The question came up about using the tobacco tax money for education, not just about prevention, but also minimizing or reducing tobacco waste.
Yeah, I mean, tobacco waste, it seems like vaping and, this next generation of, which has batteries, some of these little, these cartridges, and they have a lot of other waste that's really substantial too. It seems like there's a little bit more focus on that than the traditional cigarette waste, just because cigarette use does continue to decline.
I'm gonna say twice now, since I've been in this arena for 6 years, the state has looked at banning the filter off of the cigarette because the Surgeon General says it does nothing to prevent cancer. You actually draw harder, get it deeper into your lungs to get it through the filter. It got out of the Senate like 4 years ago, timed out. Last time Big Tobacco sat at the table, it got whittled down to nothing. So taking that off to where people would either smoke with a roach clip or a FDR kind of a straw or roll in zigzags would solve that waste problem. It would probably push people into the vaping arena, which isn't a great alternative, but there you could do a big CRV to recycle the plastic, the battery, the filter itself, put that on either the manufacturer of it or the consumer. So something I was going to bring up to you. I didn't know if it should, when we ask you to look at something, is it best to go through one of your local staffers?
Yeah, it's always good to say it to me in a forum like this, but it's a good idea, and also to pass it along to Francine at meetings like this. It's interesting because the way bills work, which in a way it's a bit of a black box when you're not in Sacramento, like how does it work? If you have an idea to ban a certain part of a cigarette part, what happens from there? And the reality is that when you're looking at bills, so we have 1,000 bills to look at. So when you're looking at bills, you look at a quick summary of the first couple sentences, and then you immediately look at who is supporting this. So like if there are a lot of waste reduction groups and some of them have a higher profile, like a Sierra Club or something, which, and then you look at who's opposed to this so that you can get a sense of the roadmap really quickly. So part of bills like this is there an organization who's owning this? And then also potentially, like they say, working it, like where they're helping the member reach out to other members and build the constituency that would support it so that there's a sense of momentum around it. And so, there are a lot, I did this thing in my newsletter, which is like, there ought to be a bill. So like people sent in really good ideas. And I'm, looking through them, and in my mind, I'm always thinking like, okay, is there a group that could help carry this forward? But it's just a good thing to know, when you're thinking about how to make progress on things. And I mean, I would look at who was the previous author of that and why did it fail? What was the reason?
And then there are some other local things being done, like the city passing a public smoking ordinance. There's 2 that have passed sales bans of all tobacco, Manhattan Beach and Beverly Hills. So you're going to see more cities
That's good.
taking local action.
That very much helps.
Eventually will drive.
And there are certain things we did in Encinitas, and somebody else will have the bill and it'll come through my committee that I'm on, and I'll think, oh, I should have had that bill. Like one of the things we did in Encinitas was require that, or we put on our website plans for ADUs, accessory dwelling units, that are free and accessible to the public. And there was a huge response to that, if anyone remembers that so many people were interested in it and downloaded it. And we have had a lot of accessory dwelling units built in the city. And that streamlined process that is permit ready, it's like, these are basically pre-approved plans. Somebody had a bill that requires all cities to make pre-approved plans available on their website. And so I thought, oh, that, we did that in Encinitas, and that's such a good bill idea to, so some of these things, and it does matter, like when cities have passed all these plastic bag bans and various things, those are all listed in the supportive paragraph. So you can see like, oh, wow, there's really broad support for this. So the local stuff really does make a big difference. And I'll also just mention one other thing that I think I was just talking to a gun safety group, Moms Demand Action, and they had hundreds of people on basically as an end of year holiday, recognition of good work. And they had asked me to say a few words at the beginning, and they were asking me what got me into that topic at all. And they wanted me to address that in my, brief remarks. And I was reflecting on it. And the reality of that is that I haven't, thankfully, had anybody in my family who's been affected by gun violence. But I am motivated in my public service by trying to reduce suffering. And I saw when I was invited, when I was a city council member, to serve on a panel about gun safety, gun violence prevention. And it was at that time, it was Lisa Schaefer's husband, still husband, but Steve Bartram, really motivated person around this topic. And he's had his own personal reasons for that, but he's invited me to be on this panel. And I didn't know much about this topic because I hadn't been involved in it. And I thought, but as an elected official, you participate in the things your community asks you to do. And so I read up on it a little bit. I pulled some things, and I started to recognize some of these big trends. Like now, guns are the biggest killer of youth. They've surpassed cars for that category. Some of these things that, and then of course, hearing people's stories, and I got really motivated because I participated in something. So what it goes to is that when there's grassroots activism around a topic, and there's some type of a summit or a panel or something, and you invite people, little elected people who are doing things, it gets people involved in these things that they might not even know about. So, and then that leads to more things, because then, I'm a gun safety mayor, and all these different things that we did. And now I'm working on it at the state level. So I do think that all this type of action from the Environmental Commission is so great in Encinitas. It leads to so many really important things that have happened that the city council picks up, that we're known for as a city, that other cities pick up. It just is tremendously powerful. And it's good to remember that, because all of you are involved in your communities and doing all these things, and it just really matters.
We have time for one. Go ahead.
Actually, we don't have a time for everyone's question. I'm really sorry.
That's right.
But Senator brought up a really great point as far as being involved with, committees or councils like these, and to be able to come and get the, information firsthand. And then, we're really fortunate to have, if we don't have the elected, like, Senator Blakespear here, we have fabulous representatives like Francine, who not only give wonderful updates, but, one thing that we're doing a little bit different with this council is we're requiring, the individuals to provide us the written updates, so then we can put them on our website and we can share them with our members. So then this way, in case you can't make it for whatever reason, or you just want to have a little bit more information, and then that may lead to some questions and conversations. And, at the end of the day, this is just like a great conduit to your local representative and the elected's office to get the information firsthand. So I want to thank you so much. I hope you stick around for the rest of the meeting to hear the updates. So I know that we're running a little bit over, and I want to make sure to give respect to the council members who have shown up today. So I know that with with the congressman's office, they were dealing with a situation today down in like the southern part of the county. So the representative nor the elected official was able to make it. So I don't know if Francine would like to give a little bit more of an update, or we did you
don't
like dot the i's and cross the t's on one?
We have to give it up. Or do you want to mention the toy drive?
Well, one
Yeah.
thing I thought you mentioned
Right.
last week
Yeah.
in Laguna, Mission Viejo, the senator sponsored a fentanyl town hall. It was presided over by the district attorney, incredibly well attended. People took it very seriously. It was very successful. Unfortunately, we didn't tape it, but we are looking at possibly doing something like that in North County. There seems to be quite an interest in that. And the other thing that's not quite as serious is that we are doing a toy drive and we have boxes at our office if anybody wants to stop by. I can give you the address afterward, or I 169 Saxony, and we're upstairs in the back.
Thank you, Francine. Typically from Assembly Member Borner's office, we have Robson, but I feel that we have Ross Tripp.
Yeah,
on.
he's Robson. Assembly member had her own thing today, so that's what Robson's at. So Ross
Okay.
is representing.
Okay, wonderful. So Ross, you have the floor.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. And I'm actually going to be taking over Encinitas from Robson, so I'll be the new point of contact, and I'm looking forward to meeting everybody. And I'll start with recent events. Last Saturday, we hosted an open house at our new district office located at 505 Loma Santa Fe in Solana Beach. We were very honored to be joined by so many community members as we celebrated the move, and this event also served as a successful supply drive where we collected an incredible amount of mugs and blankets, which will all be donated to Dreams for Change to support their Safe Sleeping Site program. Looking ahead to the next legislative session, which begins on January 3rd, 2024, Assemblymember Berner is championing two important bills. First is AB 530, which aims to establish an e-bike license and training program with the goal of ensuring the safety of children on e-bikes. This bill proposes an online written test and state-issued identification for those without a valid driver's license. And it also prohibits people under 12 years old from riding e-bikes, and will create stakeholders working group to develop an e-bike training program and license. The second bill I want to bring up is AB 47, which addresses health insurance coverage for pelvic floor physical therapy. This bill mandates health insurers to cover pelvic floor physical therapy after pregnancy, offering vital support to women in treating postpartum complications. And that concludes my update. Thank you again for having me and for all your time.
Thank you, Ross. That's a great update. Does anybody have any quick questions for Ross? Okay, so we'll move on to Cipriano. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Of course, thanks.
Good morning, everybody. Pleasure to be here. Senator, thank you for joining us. Couple quick updates on the county. We had a board meeting earlier this week, and with that, Supervisor Monica Montgomery Stepp took her oath of office, so we have a full board. But with that, the board continues to move full speed ahead. One of the issues that was discussed and that was approved at the Board of Supervisors was funding for homeless that are in recovery beds. We have about 2,000 in our region, and with it, it will specifically help about 200 people in District 3. Another project that was approved, this is where the county's, making more actions and doing more to address this issue of homelessness, but building housing on county land. And so there's about 200 units that will be built in Ramona. We know that a lot of the homeless is senior citizens that are unhoused. And so this is another way that we're tackling this issue as a region and making sure that, we put our resources where we can. And lastly, as we head into the holidays, we are heading into budget season. So as a reminder, if there's any budget requests from any of the individuals in the community, the cities or other agencies, please let us know, because we're having those conversations with the finance team. The budget is approved in June, but the discussions are happening now. And with it, we look forward to seeing all of you. We will have a new set of meeting greets for the spring. Once I have a date for Encinitas, I'll make sure to reach out and making sure that you are invited to that. Thank you all.
Thank you, Cipriano. Does anybody have any questions for Cipriano? Okay, wonderful. So we'll move on to Council Member Allison Blackwell.
Yes, hi, I'll give an update for the city of Encinitas, thanks to our great staff. But a couple things, the holiday parade just took place last Saturday. I know the chamber had a presence there too. It was really great. We had no arrests, no protests. Yes, 85 entries in the parade and thousands of people taking part. So it was really, really fun. We have many agenda items of importance coming up. We have 2 more meetings in this calendar year. So on the 13th, we will hear something related to the unhoused population on our shopping cart ordinance. So that would make it illegal to take shopping carts off of store lots. And stores either have to keep their carts on premises or retrieve them. We also have on the 13th, our new mobility manager, Nick Buck, will give an update on mobility. And then also on the thirteenth, we have our legislative program for 2024, which we had a previous discussion on. Now we're bringing it back to review the updated draft, I guess, right? And then on the 20th, which is our final meeting of the year, we're going to have an informational session on the consideration of the outdoor dining continuation. So there's obviously a lot of energy in the community on that. And that would be a very important topic. Staff is working on grant funding opportunities at both the state and federal levels for capital improvement projects. And then we have several openings on our commissions that are posted, and applications for incumbents are January 18th, and for new applicants on the 25th. So that's the quick update for Encinitas.
That's a great update, very comprehensive. Does anybody have any questions, or is there any other updates from the city manager's office?
Councilmember Blackwell did wonderful. With a little help from my friends.
I'm gonna start bringing gold stars to the meeting for everybody. Now I'd like to go to an educational update.
All right, I guess I can start. Good afternoon or good morning still, I guess. Marlon Taylor, president of EUSD. And I want to first off give a shout out to our staff and our superintendent for giving me these wonderful notes that I'm about to read off. So communities come together around school districts, and we're proud to work in support of Encinitas and South Carlsbad. To ensure we continue to be aligned with our community, EUSD has recently worked to update the vision, values, and learner profile for the district. This update included a collaboration with staff, students, families, and the community to ensure we are working towards clearly defined goals. We are excited to launch a refreshed vision statement and learner profile. We value the uniqueness and gifts of every child in EUSD, and it's our vision to ignite the limitless potential of all learners. This work focuses on offering high-quality teaching and learning experiences, robust systems of support, and an intentional focus on the individual. We have also outlined the major competencies necessary for all learners, students, and staff, which include being an empowered learner, global citizen, innovative thinker, skilled communicator, wellness advocate, and confident collaborator. These all combine to ensure learners can reach their full potential and be future ready for all the complexities and challenges in school and beyond, as we're discussing here today. Safety is always at the forefront of our minds. We continue to be proactive in the top strategies suggested for school by experts, ongoing education and training. Our schools participate in trainings throughout the school year, and staff receive further training to ensure they are more equipped in crisis management, communication, and response. This fall, we implemented bike safety training opportunities and assemblies to all students, K through 6. We greatly appreciate this joint effort with the cities of Carlsbad and Encinitas and the San Diego Bike Coalition. Upon completion of the e-bike safety training, and with an application submitted by a parent or guardian, students received a permit tag for their bike indicating approval to ride to and from campus. This process will be required for each new school year. We know that our communities continue to work together on safe routes to schools, and this training provides an additional layer of support. Finally, we continue to cultivate an environment of learning that's supportive, inclusive, and welcoming to all children. It's our strong intent to address the inequalities and racial injustices impacting education by ensuring all children are seen, heard, and loved for their uniqueness and gifts. This fall, we shared the first 3 equity podcasts for families titled Everyone Belongs Here. These podcast episodes are an introduction for families to learn about the journey that EUSD has gone on with our staff over the last 3 years. We invite our families and community to listen to these episodes on our website, which will continue with a new episode each month. And that is what we have going on at EUSD.
Yeah. Can you just repeat that part you said about the bike safety is mandatory for every student?
Every student
That's so great.
Yeah, every student that rides a bike or an e-bike on the
They must
campus.
have participated in this training
Yeah.
or they are not allowed to ride a bike.
And
And we monitor it the best it can be monitored because they require a sticker on the bike. And so they do.
And they have to buckle their helmet
Yes,
and they
yes.
can't ride 3 on 1 bicycle. Okay.
But this is the elementary level, which you know, is where it all begins. And so we want to get that base set for them.
Right.
But obviously, the issues are with the e-bikes and the speed at which they go down the hill near my house.
Yeah.
I see you,
Does that apply to all bicycles or just electronic bicycles?
all bikes,
And
all bikes.
is there an age limit?
It's for the kids K through 6.
Cause when my kids were in school at Parkdale Lane, they wouldn't let kids under 3rd grade ride
Yeah.
bikes, period.
Yeah, I don't know that the primary are. When I was a principal in Encinitas, we didn't either. I think it's mainly but all children are getting schooled in it. I know that because that's what was emphasized to us. But I doubt our kindergartners and first and second graders are riding bikes.
Yeah, walking around the neighborhood, I don't see many of the little ones on bikes right now. But, you know, starting around 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, you know, that's when business picks up and it's been nice that we've been able to do these. We were able to do all day assemblies, well, not all day assemblies, but assemblies
Was
at
that
all
every school?
schools that had all kids attend, so they've all gotten to hear the information.
So I have a quick question to add on that. So I've seen in my neighborhood, kids in elementary school on those one wheels.
Mm.
Have you seen those? Those are like electric one wheels, right?
Yeah,
They
the
feed on
big,
either
this big,
side.
big fat wheel in the middle.
Big fat wheel, well, it's
Yeah.
big fat wheel or even like a taller wheel. I mean, the kids that I've seen, like their helmet, pad, like everything. But those one wheels still go get a good 10-15 mile an hour clip. And you have like kids like so is it like all electronic movable things that you're getting paid on?
I'll get back,
Like everything.
I'll get back and ask.
Yeah.
I have not seen any of those on
Yeah, but it's like your
campus.
seat is like on
Yeah.
either side of it, and you have like the fat wheel ones, and then, but you also have the ones that have like a larger wheel, and I've seen
Yeah,
multiple ones of those, and it's, I mean, they move.
Yeah, I've
fast.
seen kids on them. I have not with my own 2 eyes seen any of them on campus.
Okay,
Not to say
Well,
that
video
they
and-
aren't, but I have not seen it with my own eyes.
okay.
Seriously.
Yeah, I definitely will, so,
I'll
okay,
ask
thank
about
you.
it.
I
Thank you.
I appreciate the update.
Yeah, it's really scary.
Is there any other updates on the educational front?
question.
Oh, more questions?
Harlan, can you elaborate? You mentioned you're doing podcasts
Yes.
in the fall.
So the podcast started going out this fall. At the beginning of we've done 3 right now. And the podcast pretty much are a roadmap or going back to talk about the equity journey that our district has been on, the training that our staff has received and the way that that they've gone about doing it. And each of the episodes, it's done by a couple of our staff members that leaned into it, that were kind of like the facilitators and coordinators, Amy Ellingworth and Jennifer Bond. And in each episode, there's a voice from the community, a parent, a student that's featured in there to tell their piece of the pie as well. So it's been a really nice way, an easy way as we continue our journey to this is what we've learned, this is how we've implemented, and now, you know, to make it stick, it's, you know, we always thought that you have to get the community along, and this was probably the most effective way to communicate this with the community, is to have this available so people can listen to it in a manner that's comfortable for them. If you're at home cooking, or if you're on a walk, or if you're doing whatever, you can pop on the podcast, take a look or take a listen, and, you know, see what's going on.
Thank
As far as the bike assemblies, do you have anything that is online for parents to, you know, reinforce that?
I don't believe we do, but I'll ask.
But that's an excellent suggestion. That's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole reason we do the podcast, is to make sure, you know, if you're proactive, you're less likely to get reaction. And so we try to be as transparent as we possibly can in this day and age with making sure people know what we're doing.
And I do know the principals and the schools and on the individual levels are communicating with parents when they see things going a little bit sideways or not the way that they should be going.
Okay.
Thank you, Marlon. If it's okay, just for the time factor, I'd like to move on to Joe, but if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to email, like Joe, sorry.
I was just gonna chime in on education update.
Oh, sorry,
So
yes.
this American College, Kristen White just a couple of things. Maricosta was recognized for top 150 colleges in the nation for the Aspen Awards, which the Aspen is kind of like the Grammys for community colleges. We're super excited about that. Also recognized at the state and local level for sustainability, looking at energy efficiency. We have some EV charging stations that have been installed at our San Alejo campus. We're looking at solar panels at our 3 campuses as well. So excited about that. And I just wanted to make that if the fentanyl seminar is held in the southern portion of the district, Maricosta would be happy to house it, whether Oceanside or its campus.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, really important.
Thank you, Kristen, and I'll make sure to include you on the agenda, so my apologies. Does anybody have any questions for Kristen? Yeah, they're doing such amazing work over at Maricosta, so we're very, very lucky to have them in the community and being a community partner. Okay, so Joe, I would like to, you have the floor.
Thank you. Sorry, late, Joe Gabalden, SDG&E. Quick couple of notes for the group. As you all know, our mission is to be clean, safe, and reliable and run our infrastructure as best in North America, and US in particular. 2 awards that we recently won. The first one is about wildfire safety and the use of artificial intelligence to do risk modeling on circuits that could be at risk, looking at what types of solutions, not only to keep them safe, but also keeping them operating at such a high level of reliability. The second award is on those reliability theme, and that is we won the outstanding reliability award presented by Reliability One. This is the 18th consecutive year that we won it and are classified as best in the West for reliability. I'm really excited about that. And lastly, part of our reliability efforts, we have a small project planned early next week on San Alejo Road, where San Alejo Avenue, where it meets Manchester Avenue. We're going to be doing some tensioning of a transmission line. It's a small project. Unfortunately, it'll have some big traffic impacts with some momentary closures. It's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're working on getting next door communications, additional partnerships with the Chamber 101, Cardiff 101, and that will be finalized, we expect, on Wednesday. So again, really excited about the partnership we have with the city to ensure that the reliability continues to go on for our customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Does anybody have any questions for Joe? Okay, wonderful. So we'll move along to public safety. So we'll start with fire.
Hello, everybody. Josh Gordon here. Thank you for SCG&E. We love our collaboration and partnership with you guys. The wildland safety portion is a big deal to us, so we appreciate it. As far as updates for the fire department, a couple of the big things we're doing right now is working with San Diego Fire and Rescue Department on a couple big ticket items to bring back to our fire department here. And that's one with the diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives that they have. They're, I think Senator Blakespear said it best, that they're kind of the forefront and the best right now with a lot of things. And as the fire department goes, the DEI, they're very progressive. So we're looking at them. They're going to come up and train us and look at our initiatives and our policies and procedures and how we can do better. We're also working with them with lithium ion battery safety. They have a lot of money in San Diego that they're putting towards that, and the research and what it takes to keep us safe with all the lithium ion batteries. So we're piggybacking off them as well. We do have some other little projects like drones are going to be introduced for some of our search and rescue, cliff rescues. We can use it for fires, we can use it for shark sightings, all that kind of stuff. So we're pretty close to finalizing that. We also have a lot of training going on right now. We have probably more new hires than we've ever had at the moment. Recruitment still is an issue for the fire service, not just in Encinitas, to find the qualified individuals, but we're working on, with the North Zone fire departments on good best practices and how we can get a bigger pool of people coming in. So it's a good collaboration between all those fire chiefs as well. Other than that, everything's pretty low key. Everything's running really well. We have probably a little less medical aids on call volume this year than we normally do, so that's a good thing, keeping the community safe. And one last thing we're working with San Diego City for is the health and wellness initiatives also, because I don't know if you've watched the news a lot, but the suicide and the cancer and health and wellness issues in the fire services, it's a problem, and I think we're losing that battle right now. So we're working with them to really look at those health and wellness programs, initiatives that they have, and again, they're kind of the progressive fire department that's doing a lot in that realm, so we're gonna look to them for some help. About it. Any questions?
Mainly to do with like phone issue.
For the AFFF that you see online. There's PFAS, there's the foam, there's the carcinogens that we breathe in every time there's a fire. You can't really just pinpoint it to one thing, but there's a lot of research out there, and we're trying to do our best to keep our people safe.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And so we'll move on to Ryan with the sheriffs.
Hi, good morning. We've wrapped up the majority of our large events for the year in November. Thanks to the city of Encinitas for hosting us for our gun safety event. We were able to collect 105 unwanted guns. We handed out 20 locks and 35 lock boxes for people who wanted them. The Encinitas Holiday Parade was a big success. I think we worked really well together. No arrests as mentioned, so that's always a good thing. Through the holiday season, we've been working heavily with the Chamber of Commerce and our local businesses. We've been doing a good job in our area combating organized retail theft. We haven't seen too many of those along the coast. Throughout the county, though, we've had a couple of incidences, more so towards LA areas where we're seeing the majority of that. For the new year, we're looking at our Project Safe Streets initiative, which brings businesses and residents together with law enforcement to reduce crime. Captain Lawrence out of the station is responsible for that, and that's a countywide initiative throughout all of San Diego County that the department will be pushing. And we also have our Hope team going out with the city still, looking forward to getting those beds in the future to help address the homeless issue. And that's about it.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, then we're just gonna move along to Sherry, who's gonna kind of tie up this meeting with a vote.
I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you, Catherine, for your wonderful update, and thank you, Corinne, for hosting this every other month and putting this all together. We really appreciate everything you do for our community. I just, in the interest of time, I just want to bring up a couple things. One is we're working with the city and the 101s on getting out to our community about the December 20th council meeting and the fate of the parklets, because that is a big hot topic in Encinitas with our businesses and communities. So we will be working and getting that out. I just found out today that it got pushed to the 20th. So we'll get that news out there. Also, we're working with our collaboration with the 101s in encouraging people to shop local, especially for the holidays, and keep that going. And then lastly, I wanted to remind you all to send your updates to our office at admin@encinitas-chamber.com, and we'll send a reminder out so that we can publicize those. And we did record this, so people will get a recording, and then they can also see the written reports. We do ask that you put it on your letterhead so they know where your reports are coming from. That's it. And again, thank you all so very, very much.
Yes, thank you. And thank you all for coming. Thank you so much, Catherine, for spending like all the time with us. I know we ran over, so I appreciate everybody giving a little bit of extra time to us today. Please keep in mind our next meeting will be on February 1st, 2024, right? Like almost we're trying to get through the holidays, but if you're like a Costco buyer like myself, they're already getting ready for Valentine's Day and we haven't got to Christmas yet. But I did make sure to get my 4-pack of poinsettias, so I had a few left. But again, out of all sincerity, I really do appreciate you all carving out time out of your day, and this has been a wonderful update. So if I don't see you all before the holidays, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. Be safe, be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
How you been?
I came ahead.
Nice to meet your wife.
Yeah, it's great.
It's been nice last, towards the end of.
No.
Joe, how you doing?
Well.
I'm introduced.